welcome to another episode on Stamp Chronicles, a video series lecture organized by the Philatelic Club of Royal College. Joining us in this episode is an eminent and opulent royalist who has served the Royal College Philatelic Club as well as Royal College. He was a chairman in the year 2014 of the Royal College Philatelic Club, as well as the chairman in the Islamic Society in the year 2013, as well as followed as the secretary of the Media Unit and the Scrabble Club. He also won the Lalit Adulat Murli Trophy in the year 2014 and also was the deputy head prefect in charge of clubs and societies in the year 2014 and 15 Prefects Council. It's more than Mr. Shamil Akbar. Welcome you to the episode, sir.
Hi Duranjana.
Hello.
Thank you.
So sir, to start off this conversation, let me start from the very beginning. How were you interested in stamps? What was the main reason behind you got interested?
Right, so I'm particularly interested about sessions of this nature because I love sharing these thoughts. So starting stamps was a very random incident, just like all of us kids before the internet stage. Probably I was 8-9 years old. My father used to get a lot of letters at that time. So he started tearing off stamps, giving it to me, coaching me on how to extract the stamp from the letter, and that's how it started. And just like stamps, same happened with coins as well.
Yeah, it's interesting start for our conversation. So, how did you join the Royal College Philatelic Club? I mean, you mentioned that you had some interested back in the age of 8 and 9. And how did you get to know about the Royal College Philatelic Club?
So around this time, I think I would have told my teachers also, as a primary school kid who would never stop talking about how I like to collect stamps. And a teacher, I should name her Mrs. Mahil Rajan, who is no longer with us. She passed away a few years ago. She recommended to me saying, look, there is a stamp club in school and you should join. Meetings are happening. I think at that time it was every Thursday after school. And I was invited by her. And my mother also liked the idea. And together, I think my mother and I initially, she guided me for the first few meetings. Then I naturally built a liking and continued in the club.
Yeah, sure, sir. So you mentioned about on how you joined and what were your interests and how you came as a collecting enthusiast. Now let me tell the twist a bit. Could you begin by explaining what is philately and what it holds culture and historical significance in Royal College as well as in the whole world?
Right, I think I'm not going to bore you with the details of the history of the penny black and then all of that. Simply, I'll talk about it from a personal perspective. For me, philately, or to use the simpler term that we used at that time, it started with stamp collecting. It started to understand cultures of other countries. One particular example, I keep getting stamps that didn't have a country, which just said Nippon. The only Nippon I knew was Nippon paint. I was wondering what it was. I started researching, then I realized, okay, Japan calls its stamps Nippon. So you learn about cultures, about countries, and then you transition, you grow in your knowledge as to what philately is. Now this has always been a tongue twister of a word to say philately or philatelic club. So philately is not only about stamps, in my perspective. So philately comes along with another popular hobby of coin and currency note collection. That hobby particularly is called numismatics. However, we cluster it under the philatelic club. And looking at the modern era where collecting stamps, collecting coins is probably dying down, I would say Philatelic Club of Royal College would stand to all collectors who collect items of historic value, items of cultural value. So you can share, showcase and talk about those, and that has been the tradition of the club for the past 70-80 years.
Yes, you mentioned regarding that philately as a hobby that most people do, stamp collecting. So we see a lot of hobbies such as reading books, playing video games currently in the modern era. But what makes philately or collecting stamps so unique from other hobbies?
One thing I can think of the top of my mind is a lot of hobbies of the modern day are very instant gratification driven. What happens? You play a game, you want to level up, you won't sleep until then. So sometimes, in a way, it sort of takes away the discipline of life, because none of the good things in life come instantly.
Yes.
Therefore, a hobby like philately, it's not only philately, by the way. Hobby, philately, fishing, painting, a lot of those older, somewhat traditional hobbies which are now dying down with the instant gratification world, teach us about patience, about, for example, tearing a stamp, putting it in water, waiting for it to come off without tearing it up, things like that. It gives us that knowledge, that patience, and also the need, hunger to search about stuff, where everything is not served to you.
Yeah. You told about the hobby and how is it unique. So, how has your personal journey as a philatelist evolved over the past years? I mean, you currently now a school out student. Basically, it's a year basic for me, or a 13-year gap. So, how has the philatelic collecting stamps evolved in your generation right now?
For starters, I like the fact that you call me Ayya, because even when I was school, grade 1, Mallis used to call me uncle. That happens. However, so I think as a primary school kid, I started collecting stamps, and then there was a peak stage where every single stamp I had copies and copies. Good, you looked at the original, the mint condition, so on and so forth, different types of seals, all those you started looking for. Then you transition into first day covers parallelly. Then you come to coins, notes, and then of course the Philatelic Club plays a huge role in allowing us to showcase those and grow those. And then it takes a bit of a backstep. Right now, as a philatelist, my journey would be mostly being part of online forums, where you discuss stamps, you share some old pictures of stamps, and possibly guiding the young generation who asks about stamps. Now, my nephew is, I have two nephews, my brother's kids, 14 and 10. So they tend to sometimes ask me, what are these things called stamps? Because they get letters once every 3 months. Or probably once a year they get a letter to their house which has a stamp. So then you look back in the day, these were the things, so you educate them. So that would be my role, and probably once in a while when I see a very attractive stamp, I would tear it off and keep it somewhere. But it's not as, I personally am not active. But while I'm saying that, it's not that all old boys or all out of school individuals are now taking a back step. I know people who are much older than I am, probably in their 50s, 60s, who up to date are very particular. They have every single stamp that comes out in their collection. But my journey has taken a back step. But it still doesn't mean that I'm not a philatelist. It's just that the way I practice my hobby has transitioned.
Yes, you mentioned about on how the hobby has evolved very much from your time, and currently when we really see that stamps are being collected by a lot of students. But I mean, Royal College Philatelic Club is a pioneer on making that tradition as a habit to make it more faster. So speaking about the Royal College Philatelic Club, you were a chairman way back in the year 2014. So as a chairman, how did you manage to reach the objectives of the Royal College Philatelic Club for these young students in Royal College?
Again, I like how you called it way back in 2014. It's 11 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
So I think my objective, not only mine, our entire board, along with the teacher in charge, our objective was to ensure to guide. There were two objectives. Firstly, the common Royal College Club's objective to ensure young royalists are able to independently do things on their own, groom themselves, improve their soft skills and so on. That was one side. The other side of the coin was to ensure that you give them guidance for young philatelists. Some of those young philatelists are better philatelists or were better philatelists than we were at that time. So we just need to guide them on the right track. So therefore there was education, practicality, as well as grooming as citizens. Yeah. So our entire year was focused around these three concepts in terms of how can we groom these young boys.
Yeah. So Shamil, Akbar, let me call you by Ayya. Again, Ayya, so basically you as a top board member in the 2014 year, there are a lot of members come into the Philatelic Club. I mean, some might be very knowledgeable regarding philately, some may not, and some don't know the meaning of philately. So how did you tackle these kind of students and make them into one for your club to succeed in that year?
Okay, so it was simple. every time someone came to the Philatelic Club, it was always from a recommendation or they drag a friend, something like that. So, firstly, you said not a lot of people will not know the meaning of philately.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, almost everyone
Yeah.
didn't know the meaning of philately. People joined the stamp club.
Stamp club, yeah.
Right? People joined the stamp club. So starting from telling them what the word philately is, to probably some of the smaller ones get them to say it, because philatelic is a bit of a long word. To doing sessions like introductions to philately, which I think is still continuing up to date, to having stamp exchange weeks where students can look at other people's collections, learn negotiation. You see also the grooming happening in the background, as well as understanding what stamps are, to being able to craft an exhibit which tells a story about their collection. So it's a tiered approach, starting from the bottommost layer of teaching them what philately is, how to collect stamps, to the highermost tiers of what happens in the international arena, the value of stamps, how do you calculate those, and how do senior philatelists behave, operate in the sector, so on.
Yeah, so basically you mentioned about, Royal College Philatelic Club. If you could say one thing unique about this club is, you have chairman as well as you have been the secretary of other clubs as well. If you look at the other clubs that you have been involved, it's mostly open from the middle section. But if you look at the Philatelic Club of Royal College, it's almost open at the age of 8 and 9. So being a chairman in this kind of club, what was unique and what was different when controlling the student body of this club?
So firstly, the simple obvious, a lot of Mallis used to call you uncle, joining in grade 3. And that was one of the most unique factors. I'm not sure how it is now. At that time, this was the only club, if I'm not mistaken, where you could have a membership card or become a member of a club. So therefore, there was a natural attraction from a lot of primary school students to join the club, to understand what it was, which would also groom them into becoming primary prefects and whatnot as well. Along with that comes, you also need to understand how to then therefore balance the parents' requirements. Because while you are open for such a young audience, naturally the interest of parents are also going to be high. But what sometimes happens is, let's say the board members, the senior boys think, okay, no, look, it's too many parents coming into these clubs, we need to figure out a way to minimize parent participation. So I think something that we did at that time is to ensure the boys are groomed, but while the parents were also kept informed. So of course, sometimes certain parents were getting involved, which sometimes moves away from the club's objectives in terms of getting boys to be groomed. But it all comes from education again,
Yes,
right?
yes. If you talk about the Royal College Philatelic Club, it's kind of a unique club. As you mentioned, I think it's the only club that you get a membership card, as well as if you look at the primary section, for grade 3 and 4 grade 3, 4, 5 students, it's the only club that's open to participate as a student body. So that makes the club very unique, and being a chairman of it, you have been a part of a very historical moment as well. Moving on to the next question. So how did the club encourage participation and engagement among students, particularly those are unfamiliar with the background or the club society working level?
So I think, like I told you before, I think I covered it in one of the previous questions about how sessions done even from schoolboys to the more senior philatelists help cover each tiers, and that's how the education was given in terms of guiding them.
Yeah. So speaking about your leadership and leadership that you hosted in school, as a senior deputy head prefect in charge of clubs and societies as well as chairman. So if you could remember a specific time of the year that when you were the chairman of the Philatelic Club of Royal College, what would it be? Like a specific time or a specific event that you could remember way back when you were the chairman?
When I was chairman or DHP? Chairman.
Chairman.
Okay. So as chairman, important event is it's a very interesting memory. It's not an event like you would think. A core memory that I've always had within the Philatelic Club is a bit of a tradition we had at that time. Not sure if it continues up to date. This is in the lead up to organizing the biggest event of our calendar, which is Royal Philatelic
exhibition.
So in the lead up to that, now there is a public event, into a hobby which doesn't have a lot of public interest. It's not like a concert, right? So we used to do a lot of publicity mechanisms, and one specific publicity project was the poster campaign. So the poster campaign, what usually happens is you outsource posters and a team goes around and pastes those. But something, a core memory of mine is where the members, the board members and the senior committee members, you pick a night and you leave your houses at around 2, 3 in the morning with a bucket of paper, that's the glue that you use, and the posters. You go all around the poster boards in Colombo, paste them. So you feel very, it's a very unique experience, because sometimes policemen don't go wearing the school uniform, right? Yes. We go wearing normal shorts and t-shirts. So we were stopped asking, who are you? What are you pasting? So then we tell them we are from the Royal College Philatelic Club. We give them the posters, and once we invited one of the policemen to join us in the exhibition, and he came because his son was going to Royal College.
Yeah.
So likewise, a lot of memories, and I think this poster campaign was a core memory of mine.
Yes, thank you for sharing that memory as well. Now moving on to your personal side of the story. Basically, you mentioned that you are a philatelist, you are a stamp collector, an enthusiast, as well as you still continue to collect stamps. So basically, are there any particular stamps in your collection that carry a completing story or historical story behind it? A specific stamp that you could remember in your collection?
I think there are many, but also given the importance of this series, one stamp that I remember is which Royal College published when the school completed 175 years. So this was in 2010. When the school completed 175 years, we published a stamp. The interesting story about that stamp is the stamp design was a hand-drawn picture done by a schoolboy.
Oh.
So it's of the main building. The backdrop of this very video was part of a stamp which was launched in 2010. I think the moment you asked the question, that was the core memory that triggered.
So yeah, mentioning about a very unique experience regarding that involving school as well on the 175-year celebration. Moving on to the next question, have you encountered any rare or unique stamps that left a lasting impression on you?
About stamps, I won't recall any, because my hunger as a stamp collector was more than looking at old stamps. I was trying to be the first to collect the mint condition of a new stamp. So with historical stamps, I don't have a lot of memories, because collectors differ in their ways, their passions and their interests. However, one thing sort of struck my mind, not with stamps but with coins. As part of the Philatelic Club, we went to the National Coin Museum located in Fort. In that, while we were walking around, there were a few of my friends were looking at me and laughing while pointing to a coin. So I walked up to the coin to see what's in it, and the coin was titled saying Akbar rupee. And Akbar happens to be my surname. Probably it was coming from the era of King Akbar, not related to me at all. But then that was a memory about how it moved me, and then I sort of read about the history of that very coin, which has ended up in the Sri Lankan Museum.
Yeah. So speaking about your own collection, you mentioned about how you had a memory there, as well as about your collection as well. So do you have a specific theme or era where you collect stamps, or any kind of specific era or a topic that you collect under the stamps, or you collect all the stamps that you get?
Generally, it was always all the stamps, but I categorized now in my stamp album or albums. Now there were a couple or three pages for different themes. So one theme I notably remember is sports. Another theme I remember is culture and arts, where you have the famous Sri Lankan dancers also as part of the collection. As well as the Peraharas. There are some stamps, the long stamps, which feature some of the old cultural artifacts of Sri Lanka. So likewise, I delved into multiple cultures. Like you said, my ambition was to collect every stamp that was released or in the contemporary period.
Yeah. Final question I ask, the leaving note or take home message in this episode. What what is your advice for future collectors of philately? I mean, now since the digital era, now we are in the 21st century, collecting stamps has been a kind of a let down hobby right now. So, but still there are collectors who are collecting stamps and coins around the world. So, at last, what do you need to tell to these collectors? The take home message in this episode.
Right, so the message is quite simple. Collection as a hobby would never die. Why am I saying that? While we are still in the digital era, collecting never dies, including in the metaverse. I forget the term that you call those pieces of art where people pay for and trade. I had it in my mind when we started the session, but I've now forgotten it. But I'm sure you'd relate to what I'm saying. The digital arts, there's a nice word for it. That also happens. No, there's another word. I'm not sure what it is called. I had it on the tip of my tongue. I don't remember it anymore. So collection, sometimes it's for as a financial investment. Sometimes it's just because you're curious about a certain subject. So if you've stumbled upon philately, or if you are considering collecting stamps, that is one of the oldest collecting hobbies since we moved to the modern era. Of course, back in the day, people collected stones, people collected seashells, so on. And collection would never die. But the only ask when you are a collector is, more than collecting for the sake of collecting, try to understand at least a glimpse of the story which has now come out as a stamp or as a coin or as even a modern item of collection that you may have, any collectible for that matter. So I've always been an advocate of the idea of the stamp club or the philatelic club grooming any young collector, because the right learnings and the right guidance is there in the philatelic club about how to collect. So that's my advice, to always think about what you collect more than trying to fill up your bag or fill up your books with whatever that you collect.
Yeah. After all, philately is known as the hobbies of kings. That's it from this episode, and thank you Shamil for being with us and sharing your experience. I mean, your guidance really valued. The collectors as well as your take home message also, I think, was really valuable for collectors around the world, around the globe, on to make their collection more developed. And thank you for being with us for this episode, leaving aside your busy schedule. So that's it from this episode. Join us again for the latest episode. Signing out, this is Dulanjana Vikramasinghe.